Cassandra. I am here to do my O.W.L.s Magical Read-A-Thon TBR. I became aware of this read-a-thon both because people were mentioning it, but also because I saw the O.W.L.s Magical Read-A-Thon announcement video over on Book Roast channel. So I thought I would jump into it. I thought I'd try it. I'm fairly new on Booktube, so I thought I would try out a read-a-thon. I've never done that before. Never saw the need to it if I didn't interact with anyone else. So for this round of the read-a-thon, a document has been made where you select a career, and depending on what career you would like to have within the Harry Potter world, you have to take certain O.W.L.s exams. So I have always known that if I was in the Harry Potter world, I would be a Hogwarts professor. I also know that what I would be, seeing as I am a Ravenclaw, I would be the Charms professor. The Hogwarts professor career requires you to take 7 O.W.L.s. You only have 2 required O.W.L.s, which is Defense Against the Dark Arts and the subject that you're going to be teaching. And then you have to take 5 more O.W.L.s. So, since I'm going to be a Charms professor, I need to take the Charms exam, the Defense Against the Dark Arts exam, and then 5 more. So, I thought I'd start off with my subject. And the reason why I know that Charms is the subject for me is because the challenge for Charms is... What's the challenge? H-line? The H-line spell, which is a adult work. And I mostly read adult works, so I'm like, that's my subject. But the book I will be reading to complete the Charms requirement is this massive ass book that's on my physical TBR, because I'm trying to get some of the big books off of there so they will be less intimidating. This is A Son of the Circus by John Irving. I only know what it says on this little description. I trust John Irving. He is my favorite author, so I want to read all of his books. This is the only one that I have physically. This will be my 8th John Irving book. The next challenge is Defense Against the Dark Arts, and that one is Reducto, and the challenge is that you have to read a book starting with the letter R. I didn't have anything on my physical TBR. I only have like 22 books on my TBR. So I went to the library and I just scoured the shelves and looked for something that started with an R. And I found the uplifting title of Rape, a Love Story by Joyce Carol Oates. It is fairly short, and I've watched a lot of read-a-thon vlogs where people are saying that it's smart to have some short books that are pretty quick to get to between the big books. So I'll be reading this one. It's about 2 women, a mom and a daughter, I think, who walk through a park, and I think they're raped. Or like, I know they're raped. I don't know if both of them are raped, but the book sort of carries on and talks about what happens after that. Yeah, I don't expect to be very... Like, I'm not excited to read this, but I've realized that I quite like Joyce Carol Oates' writing. So I'm trusting her on this, and I think I might enjoy the result of having read this, at least. The next book is Arithmancy? I'm not sure. And that is to read a book with more than one author. So I'm reading Swedish non-fiction called Help Us. It is about the Romani people. Mainly, I think it's about them in Sweden, but I think it's also a little bit historical and about the Romani people in the EU. Yeah, this one also quite short, hopefully pretty hard-hitting. Hoping to learn something from this, and I am quite excited because I don't feel like I know enough about it. Next subject that I chose is Care of Magical Beasts. Yeah, that's what it's called. And that challenge is to read a book with a land animal on the cover, and a cat is a land animal. I bought this. This is from my physical TBR. It's also quite short, quite big text. I thought it would be a good idea to pick it off. Also, I bought it because I was very excited to read it when I saw it in the store. So I wanted to read it sooner rather than later, so I'm picking it up pretty soon. I bought it just at the beginning of March. It's called If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. The next challenge is Transfiguration, and that is to read something with sprayed edges or something with a red cover, and I picked something up from the library. I picked up The Outsider by Stephen King. I am doubling up on this since I'm actually reading this for a reading challenge that I'm doing of reading all the winners of the Goodreads Choice Awards. So this one is also quite big, so between this one and A Son of the Circus, I'll have a lot to read. I bet you see how clever I am with picking up all those small books as well. The next challenge is, the next subject I'm taking is Muggle Studies, and for this one you have to read a contemporary. And I think this is a contemporary. It's The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Again, I'm reading this for the Goodreads Choice Awards reading challenge, but I haven't read it yet. I have been eyeing it for like half a year now, thinking I'm gonna read it, so this seemed like the perfect time to pick it up. And the final challenge, or the final subject that I'm taking, is herbology, and this one is a little bit of a stretch. The challenge is to read something with a plant on the cover, and I am reading The Priory of the Orange Tree, and there are some leaves right here in the corner. This one is also a big book. I'm doubling up on this because I'm reading it for Fantasy-A-Thon. And since I'm reading it for Fantasy-A-Thon, I thought I would just read it for both the Fantasy-A-Thon and the O.W.L.s Magical Read-A-Thon. And therefore, since they overlap, I won't have to, like, it will cover both and it will be a good time. I'm very excited to read this. By Samantha Shannon. I saw it in a bookstore, have seen so many people talk about it, and since it's standalone, I'm also very excited to read about it. You don't see enough standalones, is my opinion. So that is like my main TBR. These are the books that I am pretty much for sure gonna read. But I would also like to be able to choose some other careers. I don't want to limit myself to just Hogwarts professor. What if Flitwick, like I don't want him to retire. Well, of course, I'm gonna study under him as his apprentice first, and then he will retire and I will take over. Is how I imagine it. But I would like to broaden my horizons a little bit. So I thought I would talk about what other subjects I can also take. Now, the main one is potions, and the challenge for potions is a sequel. And for that one, I've picked up The Masked City. Now this one I'm unsure if I'm gonna get to, because I've picked it up also for Fantasy-A-Thon. And I read the first book in this, I want to say 4 years ago, so I don't remember a lot from it. I might have to reread that one before I get to this one. I picked this up from the library to read it and see if this is a series that I want to continue on in. I've sort of fallen out of love with YA fantasy, which this is. So we'll see if I get to this one. If I DNF it, I could just say I failed potions, but since I've accomplished the rest of my subjects, or I will have accomplished the rest of my subjects, I'm not too worried about it. So this one is like a backup subject, I guess. It's by Genevieve Cockman. And then there are the subjects of Ancient Runes, which is a retelling. I don't own any retellings and I don't plan to read any. Astronomy has star in the title. Don't own any like that, and I have no other plans to read anything like that. Divination, which is set in the future. I'm not a great fan of sci-fi, and I have no other books like that. So, and I have no plans to read anything like that, so don't think I'm going to be able to reach that one. But the last one is History of Magic. And for that one, you have to read something published at least 10 years ago. Now, I read majority, like I would say 95% of what I read are things that were published at least 5 years ago. So I have quite a lot for that challenge. These were the ones I picked off of my TBR. You have Ship of Magic, Ship of Magic, which is the first book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, which is the second trilogy within Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings series. I'm quite excited to get to that one, but it is quite a big book. So depending on how long it takes me to read those other big books, I might get to that one. Next one is Snow by Orhan Pamuk. I've given Orhan Pamuk one chance previously, but I DNF'd that book because I couldn't get into it. This one, Snow, seemed a little easier to get into. I don't remember what it's about now though. So I picked that one up and I will give him another chance. I might start reading this, and if I don't get into it, I'll probably DNF it and unhaul it. Then we have a book I bought yesterday, which is Gangsters by Claes Östergren. This is a Swedish book. It's a sequel. The first book was called Gentleman. So it's a sequel. I am intrigued to see if it lives up to the first book. Then I have my two classics. One is a Swedish classic by Selma Lagerlöf, and the second one is a Jane Austen book. So these were all written at least 10 years ago, and I might read any of these. Now, since I realized that this one is a sequel, it could actually go for potions as well. So if I DNF Masked City, I read this one instead for potions, and read one of these other ones for History of Magic, I might be able to pull off 9 subjects. Now that's pretty good. Yeah, so please let me know if you are reading any of these for the O.W.L.s Magical Read-A-Thon, because I would be excited to see if we're reading any of the same books, and we might be able to like buddy read them, or at least I have someone to talk about it with. Please feel free to let me know. I hope I see you in the next video. Bye!